Hi, the Pragmatic Luther. Today I want to show you a device that I built for making guitar heel blocks. In my guitars, I use a mortise and tenon connection between the heel of the guitar and the neck. And this block is not complete by any means, but you can see the beginnings of a mortise that I'm going to machine in that. And then, of course, that corresponds to the tenon that you can see in this neck. And that's additionally held in place with brass inserts in the tenon, and I use number 10 24 thread stainless steel cap screws to complete that joint. So I make heel block blanks that look like these, and I make them all in one piece as the lineup suggests here. And I'll make them up in a piece, as much as 3 feet long. I find that that's about as long a piece as I can easily manipulate and get accurate results with. And these are laminated. You may be able to see they're laminated, and the bottom of them is splined in. You might be able to see there's a little spline right in there. The spline does not add strength. It just allows me to keep these surfaces lined up perfectly. And after I get a line of them made up, a chunk of it, then I'll cut these to exactly 2.5 inches long. They're also 2.5 inches deep front to back, but that can vary. But this width cannot, for my purposes, vary. It is strictly 2.5 inches. And I'd say that's plus or minus not more than 4 or 5/100ths of an inch at the very, very most. So we'll move to the jig and I'll show you how this thing. So here is the jig mounted in the vise, and it's really not too difficult to make, and it's pretty simple in principle. This slot that's milled in this top platen is exactly 3/4 of an inch wide, and it is that way so that a router bit with a top bearing will ride in that and produce a mortise that's the same size, 3/4 of an inch. This larger opening that you see right here is just a place where the router can rest and not do any damage. Underneath the jig, you can see there's a pair of aluminum cleats here. Now, these brackets are installed perfectly square with the back surface and this top platen and its corresponding slot are also strictly at 90 degrees to that back surface. That's extremely important in making the jig. Now, I happen to make these out of aluminum. You can make them out of pieces of plywood. It doesn't matter. You just need a guide that's going to hold that block in position. And I installed these thread rods with T-nuts above, and that's glued in up there with some some Loctite. And it's held in place with a nut, again, one on each side. And this cleat that raises up on the heel block and keeps the block in position. So the block just slides in, and that's why that 2.5 inches is critical. I can't have any variance there because I don't want any of that. I don't want any of that to move on me. And then it's just clamped into place with the cleat here. And then it's held secure enough so that the router can do its work. It's no more difficult than that. I probably should point out that the distance right here from the back surface, from this back surface of the jig, that distance right there to the end of the mortising slot is critical. It can vary, but you want to make sure that distance is enough to accommodate the tenon with enough height above it so that you've got a little bit of area there left in the upper bow, because your binding is going to go around there. And, you know, I try to make that, I don't know, probably a good, that's a good 5/16, maybe even 3/8 of an inch. But you could vary that for your particular needs. Now, I've drilled my block in advance. You could drill it later on after this, after making the mortise, but I drill mine in advance. And those holes are placed strategically based on the depth of the guitar at the upper bout. Yours could vary. Mine vary depending on depth. And I have marked out where that mortise is going to be. And you can see that I've pre-drilled that. I just take a 5/8 Forstner bit and clear some of that out. It just makes it a little easier for the router. And this is simple to do because I just slip the block into position over here. See if I can see to do that. I just slip the block into position and then trace that with a pencil. That way I can take it to the drill press and just clean that stuff right out. So then I'm just going to put it in here and do the routing, which I'll show you very quickly. I'm using a Bosch Colt router to do this. You could use any router that you care to, but you need to have a top bearing bit and you need to make sure that it guides against this opening. I've already adjusted this for depth, so we're ready to go. We're just going to turn this thing on and clean it all out. And upon removing the heel block from the jig, I have that nicely milled out. And that's a perfect 3/4 of an inch. It's nice and square with the bottom of this, so when you glue this into your rims, if you take care to make sure it's square, you're good to go. When the rims are glued over this, of course, they'll cover it. You can go in there with a chisel and clean that out to get the rims out of the way, or you can use a router bit to go in. A bottom bearing router bit can reach down in there sometimes and clean those out. Now the depth of this would be up to you. It depends, of course, on the thickness of your heel block. I want to have between the bottom of this heel block and the bottom of this drilled hole, I want to have 3/8 of an inch in there as a web to hold on to that screw. I suppose you might go thinner, but I think 3/8 seems to be a fair enough way to go. So you can vary this in a lot of ways, but this is the basics of how you can mill very nice heel blocks. The only thing left to be done on this now is I'll go over to the table saw and cut an opening in this for my truss rod to pass through or for access to a truss rod. Well, thank you for watching this video. I hope that you can put this information to use, maybe build one of these jigs for yourself. Now, this isn't the end of the story, because if you have a mortise here, you have to have a tenon to go with it. So when I get the time to do another video, I will do a video on the tenoning jig. Now, this one is not nearly as simple to make. It's time consuming, but boy, is it really worthwhile to do. And once you get this jig and that other one so that they're working together, you got a system that really holds up nice and does a great job for you. So thanks again for watching. I hope you'll put a like on the video, and I would ask you to subscribe to my channel. Once again, reiterating, I don't monetize my videos. I'm just doing this for my own enjoyment and hoping that it offers some of you folks some helpful hints and things that you can do in your own shop. Thanks again. I'm Kevin Ledoux, the Pragmatic Luther from the largest guitar manufacturing company in the entire town of Triangle, New York.